Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and there's so much going on today that I'm like, golly. Let me see if I can get in some of my thoughts on what's going on. First of all, we had the Coinbase. Coinbase gets sued for violating federal securities laws the day after Binance. And then Eleanor Terrett says 4 complaints from the Coinbase lawsuit. They've operated as an unregistered broker since 2019, evading disclosure scheme for securities markets. 2, Coinbase deprived investors of disclosures, 3, crypto assets. Here's the ones they say are securities. Solana, Cardano, it's the same, pretty much the same ones from the Binance thing. 4, Coinbase's staking program includes 5 stakeable crypto assets, and that's an issue too. This is what protecting investors looks like, is you let a Coinbase go for all these years and then you sue them. And this is how the SEC protects investors. And so now the investors in Coinbase's stock, which it was approved for that to go IPO by the SEC with all these supposed securities on it. And so then they sue it years later. That's how they protect investors. If you're not figuring it out yet, it has absolutely nothing to do with protecting investors. Absolutely nothing. And I agree. Remember the other day when Charles Gasparino said that Gary was flogging his staff to bring cases? I believe this is the reason. Ashley Prosper, I believe, is right over the target. The Ripple case has to have been settled, bringing the case against Binance and Coinbase, 2 titans of industry with enough resources to tie the SEC up in years of litigation, would be undermined if Judge Torres' summary judgment ruling went against the SEC. And then she said this as well. To people thinking the SEC is bringing these cases against Binance and Coinbase because Ripple lost at summary judgment, these cases would have been brought regardless of what happens in the Ripple case. In fact, Gary said in his video on CNBC this morning, he said all he needs is one security on Coinbase to bring an action like that. He said, she says these cases would have been brought regardless of what happens in the Ripple case. As Deaton said over 2 years ago, the SEC planned to go after the exchanges. They did and have. If the SEC had already received summary judgment opinion and it was in their favor, it would have been cited in the complaints against the exchanges. They would have used it. Exactly. No, in my opinion, the Ripple case is over. In my opinion, too. And now the SEC needs to go full steam ahead to get Gary a clear win before 2024. Remember, this is all about Gary. Gary doesn't give a rat's behind about investors, protection, and all that. He's proven that over and over. I believe that win will be with bye-bye Binance, and Coinbase will be just fine. I tend to think that too. Here's some of Gary on CNBC this morning.
Take them one by one. Which is more important in your view?
You're leading this interview. I'm going to follow you where you are. But let me just say this to the investing public. These trading platforms, they call themselves exchanges, are commingling a number of functions which in traditional finance, we don't see the New York Stock Exchange also operating a hedge fund, making markets, and as we alleged in Binance, having a sister organization, flooding the platform with transactions called wash trading, and the lack of controls on the platforms is really a web of deception and conflicts, along with a control person, Mr. Zhao, trying to evade U.S. law.
And given the timeline we're talking about, what do you say to viewers who wonder why enforcement has taken arguably at least several years, so long?
Look, it takes time. We do things by the book. That's what the American public would want us to do. We follow the facts and the law.
Well,
and
those
I couldn't be more proud of the investigative teams at the...
Binance has not been in existence for 10 years, but it took 10 years for them to sue Ripple. That line is just a bunch of garbage. Coinbase has been around since, I think, 2011 or 12, something like that. Takes that long for you to know. This is all by design, folks. Crypto Law says repeatedly refuse to say what compliance means. Approve an IPO knowing their business model. Sue them for non-compliance. This is the insanity of regulation by enforcement and its destructive outcomes for people Gary Gensler is supposed to be protecting. Then, this is great. Watch this. This is from Digital Perspectives today. First part's Chris Larson. Second part's Gary Gensler. Third part's Chris Larson.
So Chris, how do you plan on distributing Ripple? I know part of it is set aside for the founders, and then the rest is given out to basically encourage people to use Ripple, or?
Ripple Labs can give it to business development partners, to consumers broadly, to people globally. So two things that we've been doing, which we like, is we've been incenting market makers with XRP forgivable loans. It's essentially the vehicle that we're currently using. But we feel that incents, say, big currency traders, high-frequency traders to actually be active market makers on Ripple. Say, big currency traders, high-frequency traders, that provides liquid markets. That's good for everybody. It's them an incentive in the long-term success of the network. That provides liquid markets. That's good for everybody. Gives them an incentive in the long-term success of the network. In some ways, just exactly what Visa did, is they sort of gave out ownership of Visa to key banks to participate in the system.
Central monopolist with another central monopolist. A lot of commercial banks aren't terribly excited about that. Maybe you're going to have to give some ownership. Maybe you'll have to give 50% of your ownership to the 20 banks that are now, part of this. I mean, there are other ways to build incentive systems. Maybe you put a native token in there, and you give them the native token. So there may be other incentive ways. Monopolist.
In some ways, just exactly what Visa did, is they sort of gave out ownership of Visa to key banks to participate in the system. We think that's good. And the other cool thing that we've been doing that we like.
Now we've got Jack Dorsey activated. Check this out. I said, I think this tweet is a distraction. Jack Dorsey says 100%. This guy had said Coinbase should pivot back to being focused on Bitcoin, and is retweeting a tweet from Brian Armstrong back in the day where he says Ripple, Stellar, and altcoins are all a distraction. Bitcoin is way too far ahead. We should be focused on Bitcoin and side chains. Well, let me tell you why I think Jack Dorsey's tweet's a distraction. Because Jack Dorsey's best buddies with Greg Kidd, who's one of the first guys at Ripple, and this doesn't make sense. This is interesting also. He tweets today as well. Somebody says, is ETH a security, Jack? And he says, yes. Very interesting. And then we've got this from Brad Garlinghouse back in the day from the official cowboy of the Digital Asset Investor channel.
You're one of the front runners, but the thing is, are there too many of you guys?
Actually, I agree with you. I think there are too many. There are around 3,000 different digital assets that trade on a daily basis now. I think, anytime there's a new market, there's a lot of people that run into that market and try to show that they can solve a problem, they can deliver a customer need. I have said publicly before that I think 99% of all crypto probably goes to zero. But there is that 1% where I think that is focused on solving a real problem for real customers and is able to do that at scale. And that's going to be game changing. And I think that's going to continue to grow significantly in the decades ahead.
You're one of the front runners.
So you got that. Then we've got this. This is from John Deaton. He was on the Good Morning Crypto show. I can't remember if I played this clip.
So people love hard percentages here. Let's break it down as if we had 100%. What do you give it as the likelihood the SEC outright wins, a Ripple outright win, or something in between? Can you break down percentage-wise what you're anticipating?
Oh, that's tough. I believe an outright total victory for the SEC to be less than 3%. I believe an outright total victory for Ripple, meaning she doesn't even hold early sales, to be a violation at 25%. I believe that scenario I just showed you, of splitting the baby, to be 50%.
Okay, so what he was talking about is splitting the baby is what I think is going to happen. I think that somehow the judge basically says some of the early sales before 2018 were securities, but XRP itself and XRP in the secondary market are not securities. Now, I want to remind everybody, John Deaton, remember, he got hacked, and so today he's going to be on his the War on Crypto, SEC sues exchanges update, and on the cyber attack. And John is going to be on crypto law today at 3 o'clock. So go check that out and support John in any way we can. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family that John Deaton's on at 3 o'clock on YouTube.